I'm not the leader of a group that wants to be cut off from its rational supports, its ability to think freely. That's what I mean by rational supports. Your rational mind demands of you to think freely and to establish yourself upon what you recognize and observe to be the reality. If you want to be cut off from that and you want to be ritualized, I'm not the leader for you. And neither was Imam W. Deen Muhammad, and neither was Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Honorable Elijah Muhammad wasn't inviting you to embrace any ritual life. He was inviting you to embrace freedom, justice, and equality. And then Imam W. Deen Muhammad translated the rituals in Islam so that you can accommodate that vision. Well, that sensitivity has to continue in the world. That is what our leadership looks like. That is what our leadership is. And there's no leader in our community that is expressing that in the way that I am. Even though I know it exists in them, they have it. Imam W. Muhammad taught them this, but they depending on who you're talking to, they cover it over with something inferior. Because of what? I'm gonna tell you why. I'm revealing it to you. I'm telling you why. They cover it up with something inferior because they're still dominated by the white man's influence in their world. They still looking for acceptance from the white man's authority. They're still looking for acceptance for every body of people and every body of knowledge that exists outside of their realm that they think acknowledges their intelligence and their worth. That's what they're looking for. They're still operating under the psychology of a slave. They don't want to be free. They don't want to be responsible. I told someone this week, I said within 4 generations, if our people accept this period, it's a difficult period. It's a strenuous, soul-stirring period. But if they accept me within 4 generations or less, our people will be the rulers in America. That America will depend upon our decisions. And not only that, and many of you all in this class may not be able to appreciate what I'm getting ready to tell you, but within 4 generations, by the universal acknowledgement of our worth in leadership, Muslim leadership, Islamic leadership, that the world population of Muslims and its leadership will accept us as the custodians of the holy places. I'm telling you, not that we have to occupy that physical territory, but when it comes to representing the purpose of the holy places in consideration of the dignity of man, it will be no doubt in the United Nations and whatever entity exists in those hundreds of years that are in the future, whatever exists that acknowledges the configuration of the authority of nations will recognize the descendants of us in the following of Imam W. Deen Muhammad as the custodians of the sacred places of Islam. So, be thoughtful in the way you interact with me. In what I represent. In what I am expressing to you. In my continuation of what was started by Mr. Farad and concluded as a knowledge body in Imam W.D. Muhammad, I am the most important man on this earth. And you shouldn't treat me any less than that. And don't think that others don't see it. The weakness of our leadership is a betrayal. And there are strategies in the margins to separate us from our leadership responsibility in the world, to separate us from an acknowledgement of that responsibility and separate us from our innocence to be accepted in that responsibility. There are movements in the world right now that are intended to weaken us for that purpose. The Salafi movement is one. The Salafi movement exists for one purpose and one purpose only: to disrobe us of our innocence. And I'm telling you right now what it is, all right? I'm putting it on record so you all know what it is. It's not a movement for Islamic purity. It's not a movement for advancing Islamic knowledge. It's not a movement for improvement of understanding of Islamic identity and Islamic teaching. It was designed to enslave the African-American people, the African-American Muslim, and to separate them from Imam W.D. Muhammad's leadership, to disrobe you of your innocence, to qualify you for world leadership. Because if they can put you in the bag that they have, that the Muslim world leadership is in, if they can put you in the bag of extremism, they can cancel your effect. And our leaders have let it creep in. And that's what it does. It creeps. Now it's bold. But in the time of Imam W.D. Muhammad's leadership, it was creeping around. So you look at our leaders now, and they're more in the picture of the Salafi leaders than they are in our tradition. They look more like they look more like foreign leadership in Islam than they do like us. And I'm not just talking about physical dress. I'm talking about in the men. I'm talking about even the beard, even the head covering. Crept in on us. By way of what? By way of a group of people that abandoned the responsibility to support the new leader of the Nation of Islam. Now, here's the man that comes and corrects the error in the Nation of Islam teaching and shows you for the first time what is Tawheed. You abandon him, go to foreigners saying that you advancing the cause of Tawheed, but in the time when the transition was taking place, you were high on marijuana and cocaine and alcohol and everything else in the street. I know your story. Now you come back in your next iteration and generation of leadership after you, and you're the holy, pure Muslim, calling out to the world that the followers of Imam W.D. Muhammad are deviants in Islam. And the numbers of these people are advancing, increasing in Philadelphia, Newark, Washington, D.C., everywhere, Boston. Everywhere there was a concentration of strength or possibility and potential in our people, it has been replaced by this influence. And our people acquiesce to it. So I want you to understand that I understand what I'm looking at. We are people that have endured assaults from everywhere. And not just in the local masjid where we have taken heavy casualties. Also in our institutions, economic institutions, intellectual institutions, general social institutions, we have taken heavy casualties. I've been to countries that have been ravaged by war. I've seen war. And I don't know if you can see it or you can sense it. Maybe it's more in the soul than it is in the ability of the eyes to perceive. But in the soul, you can sense that we have been a people attacked and have taken heavy casualties. So if the people are sincere, then God will save them. And he'll bring from them leadership. And we are sincere people. And who would be more suited for that leadership than the one prepared for it, and also the one who took some casualties himself? I'm just making the rational argument.